Okay, we're back at News from the Roots. Today, again, is March 7th, 2019, Thursday, and we're here continuing our conversation with Robert Eidus. And now we're going to be talking about the Farm Bill, which you studied and wrote about extensively. So, tell us what basically is in the Farm Bill. Let's start with the subsidies that are included in the Farm Bill.
Well, one of the things I want to just mention to start off was that a Farm Bill is 5 years of authorization of funding. 5 years.
Okay.
So we did a 2014 Farm Bill. You would think that the next Farm Bill would be 2019. So the big question, which I think I have an answer to, is why did they rush this through at the end of the session in December?
Okay, and of course we're talking about on the federal level, this is Congress.
Congress.
Right. And
Yes.
so what did you find when you looked into that question about why they rushed it through?
Because the House Republicans wanted to do some things in this bill, and they knew that the House was going to be taken over by the Democrats in
So
January.
they did it in the lame duck session. They did it after the election, in other words.
Right, exactly. After the election,
Okay.
end of December, just before the Dems are coming in to the House.
Interesting. Okay.
That is why we have a 2018 Farm Bill and not a 2019 Farm Bill. And I, as a farmer, am offended by the fact that they said the reason we did the 2018 Farm Bill and not wait for 2019 was because the farmers wanted it. Now, give me a break. Another month, and it would have been the 2019 Farm Bill? So
it didn't have anything to do with that. It had to do with them wanting to get their policies implemented,
yeah,
and not turn it over to the Democrats.
yeah, yeah.
Of course,
Exactly.
the Democrats, if they wanted, well, they could pass their version in the House, but it wouldn't pass the Senate.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what happened, as far as the main body of money in the Farm Bill goes to farm subsidies. Senator Grassley from Iowa, who's one of the two farmers in the Senate, on the Ag Committee voted against bringing this out to the floor.
Oh, how about
And
that?
voted against it
Even though he's a Republican.
on the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did Charles Grassley have to say? I'm very disappointed the conferees decided to expand the loopholes on farm subsidies. I've been trying to make sure people who get the subsidies are real farmers. Give me a break. There are people who aren't real farmers who are getting farm subsidies? That's crazy.
So you're saying that what his complaint was bogus?
No. His complaint was true.
Oh.
That the House Republicans in the conference committee put in that more distant relatives of farmers, such as cousins, nephews, and nieces. Now, what I would like to know is who in the conference committee had a cousin, nephew, or niece that's going to benefit from this legislation.
Okay.
That's number one I wish the Justice Department would look into. So, we have these House Republicans, most of whom are not going to be brought back. They're not. So they pushed this through. It's horrible. And now we have 5 years of corporate farms producing horrible food, and we've got another 5 years of this. That's
of the policies that promote corporate farming over family farming, for instance.
Yeah.
And so, what's being subsidized here?
Well, probably the corn. I don't think sugar. They're pretty well said in the very first version of this farm bill that sugar was not going to be dealt with at all as far as giving any subsidies to
That's
it.
kind of surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sugar lobby is pretty strong.
Yeah. But as far as I know, sugar is not getting any more benefits. They've got thousands of millions, billions of dollars worth of benefits, and have screwed up people's diabetes and everything really bad. So we are now 5 years locked into corporate farming on the worst level, with people getting these subsidies who aren't farmers. That's an outrage, and everybody should be outraged by that.
Well,
And the fact that people who aren't corporate farmers aren't getting any subsidies.
So who are the people who are getting subsidies who aren't farmers?
Well, one of the people who just by this farm bill is being allowed to have crop insurance is hemp farmers. But hemp farmers weren't part of it before. Most of your small vegetable farmers are not part of this. You got the big guys with cotton, soybeans, corn.
They're getting subsidized.
They're all getting subsidized. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's definitely not fair.
But you also note that the SNAP program is getting
Right.
subsidized.
Okay, so what they did in conference committee, the Republicans in the House wanted to cut the SNAP program. So they gave in on the SNAP program, which is basically keeping the levels where they are.
And to clarify, the SNAP program is what used
Food
to be called
stamp.
a food stamp program.
Right.
Yeah.
Nutrition.
Okay.
For kids who don't have any food, and they need to have their in school, the school programs for food and all of that. Okay. SNAP looked like it was going to be one of those areas where the Democrats wanted to expand this important program and the Republicans wanted to cut it. So the Farm Bill preserves funding for this program, and which provides additional assistance to struggling families who need help putting food on the table, said one person about the bill. However, the House Republicans gave up on this issue knowing that the White House, through the Department of Agriculture, has just concluded a reduction in food stamps nationwide. So they didn't put it in here. They gave the SNAP people all the stuff that they, make it equal, say we're giving something up, and then the White House goes and cuts the food stamp program.
How can the White House have the power to?
Okay,
Yeah.
let me get to that. Okay, the White House has signaled its intention to cut food stamps without approval from Congress, according to the Washington Post. this SNAP program became a kind of football going back and forth. Do we cut it? Do we raise it? Okay, we leave it the same. And then the White House came around through the Department of HUD. Let me see where it says
Housing
here.
and Urban Development. Okay.
No, I mean through Department of Agriculture, to provide stronger work requirement rules through the Department of Agriculture, and so bypassed this whole thing with the SNAP program that they said was going to be kept at the same levels. So that was, the Dems got really circled around, and they did not come out on the smelly side.
So did the White House implement those changes?
As far as we know, they have.
But I mean, it probably. I wonder how many people actually are affected by that. Most of the people who are on food stamps need food stamps, and there are a lot of people. I know there's a lot of police officers. That was a big issue here in Silva, who had to supplement their income with food stamps.
Hey, all of the people who work for me are on food stamps.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. Most of the people on food stamps are already working.
Except they have stricter work requirements.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, that in the past, people would come on my farm, and I looked at the food stamp program as a way for my interns to support organic farming. And I would write them a letter to the food stamp guy down in Marshall, a lady, and they would get food stamps pretty much automatically. Now, on my side of the coin, I asked the interns to promise that they would just buy organic vegetables, and that way help the organic farmers. But their food stamps, when they left my farm, would continue until they got to another place where they were making more money or something.
And they had to reapply. Yeah.
But now, when they leave my farm, they lose their food stamps.
Oh, I see.
So they're tightening and tightening and tightening down. I know that one of my main farm workers, who lives in subsidized housing and gets food stamps, their work requirements have strengthened. Now, it's not that it's jumped a whole lot. It's just that instead of maybe having to work 20 hours a week, they have to work 30 hours a week, which is a big increase. Yeah. But it's still within the realm of under 40 hours.
And how much in food stamps do they get in a month?
That depends. That really depends. I've never really gotten to the people's finances to understand that.
Yeah. Okay.
But most of the people I know who are on food stamps can't get through the month on food stamps if they have a family. And the ones that get through it usually are the people who are single. And they don't eat. They don't eat. It's not a lot of money. They're not. It's crumbs, and a lot of this stuff is really government. Like, I don't know if you know about milk. There's a whole thing about cows should drink milk. The calves, it's good for them, builds bones, but really is it for humans? And then you go all the way down into the products of milk, and we're finding now that the milk producers are having lots of problems. A lot of them are going out. But what they're doing is, when they have milk that is below where they're using, they're turning it into cheese.
Into cheese.
Cheese. And now we have
a value-enhanced product.
We have a glut of cheese, which the government just keeps giving
You
out.
wouldn't know it by the prices in the supermarket. Cheese is through the roof in terms
Yeah.
of price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't hit the consumer. It hits the farmer.
Yeah.
One just needs to understand that all of these farm policies that were basically policies that started in the turn of the after World War II are not necessarily relevant today in many respects. Many respects. So
Alright,
the
so-
SNAP program got funded, but the White House and the Republicans didn't end around to cut hours through the Department of Agriculture that administers the food service.
Okay. So you write about how the Farm Bill has affected farmers markets.
Okay, so one of the things in the past has been that the farmers markets had to get funding every farm bill as a new item. What they did is they made it like the SNAP program. The farmers markets are now part of the farm bill, that they don't have to come up every year and ask for reauthorization
how do they-
every 5 years.
How do they fund farmers markets? I mean,
Well, that's it. These funds come from the U.S. government through the NCDA, and like the one down on I-40 and I-26 is a big, huge commercial
Yeah.
farmers
and
market.
so how is that
That's-
subsidized?
The government owns the land. The government owns the buildings.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, the government rents that out. It's not privately
Oh,
run.
so the government rents it out, and the
Yeah.
farmers pay a fee.
The stallers pay a fee. The
Right.
farmers sell to the stallers, and
Well, so very
So-
often the stallers are farmers, aren't they?
no. These are guys that are in these commercial
so
ones
this is not a
that
tailgate market.
that runs down,
Okay.
you know, and gets a whole truckload of tomatoes out of Georgia.
So these are retailers.
Yeah, they're basically that. So those markets, plus the organic tailgate markets, are now considered farmers markets,
Yeah.
and they are part of the farm bills forever and ever
Okay.
until they take them out.
But most farmers markets, tailgate markets, I mean, where do they need subsidy? Where do they take subsidy?
Okay, so like ASAP, for instance, that has these campaigns,
What's ASAP?
the Appalachian Sustainable Agricultural Project,
Okay.
and they have, they're out of Asheville, and they have documented 27, 28 Asheville area farmers markets,
Okay.
and they give them 50% marketing for the market.
What does that mean?
So if they want to put an ad in the Asheville Times
Mm-hmm.
about their farmers market,
Mm-hmm.
the government would put in 50%.
Oh, they'll pay for
And then the-
advertising.
yeah,
so they
yeah,
help publicize it.
They'll help
Okay,
publicize
that's
it.
a good thing.
They'll help, you know, the coffee mugs and hats and all that as giveaways.
Oh,
and-
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the farmers market thing.
Do they insure? They pay insurance too,
Well, for the commercial ones, yeah, they're
They
all
do.
insured.
and the government helps with that.
No, that's private. The installers have to
Okay.
have their own insurance when they come into the booth.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's one of the areas where there was a increase in the farmers markets and the tailgate markets funding and everything. Then there was a new program that was put in that will help. It's called, the category is farm transition. With the average age of the farmers in their 60s now, in North Carolina, we have a group called NC Farm Link. And this organization for North Carolina out of NC State will be able to draw down funds to help transition farming. So finding young people to buy out older farms that are existing. And that is happening in North Carolina, and the Farm Bill will be subsidizing that. If you come to a state where they don't have that, then you're not going to be able to draw down those funds.
That's an interesting subject. So where do they find such people? Where do they find young farmers?
Well, they have a website, and like my farm is up there. I'm number 79, I think, or 72. And all of my stats, but pictures of my place, all of that are there and up on the site.
And is there a pretty good population of young people who want to go into farming?
Great question. Great question. I would say, when you go to the organic grower school, you got 2,000 people coming. You maybe half of them are new farmers wanting to get going.
They want to go into organic farming.
Yeah, more organic, right. There are the future farmers of America out of every high school. They're also part of this aspect.
So there is. Well, the answer is yes. There is a significant population of young people who want to go into farming.
Whether it's significant or not, I don't know.
Whether it's significant enough, you don't know. Yeah.
But there are people out there that are looking. Now, obviously, you got some things that are people, want to grow veggies. They want to have goats. They want to do chickens. They
don't want to necessarily be full-time farmers, but they want to do something.
No, I'm saying that they want to do some of these things, and then they have to find the farm that was doing all of those things.
I see.
So it's not like, well, this farmer can go to any of those. This farmer can go to maybe 2 or 3 of the 100 that are in North Carolina.
And so is the Farm Bill subsidy for that, does that help people acquire land? Does that actually help them pay for the land?
Not yet, no. What it does right now is just trying, as far as I remember, is trying to put the two people together. They have to have their own resources. But there are farm resources out there. There's the Farm Bureau that does farms. Now, there's one part that we haven't gotten to, and that is an emphasis now also on the farmers who are minorities. All of those folks, minority, women, Latino, those kinds of people are going to be able to get access to loans. Whereas before it was just white males that could get it. There is a new part of this farm bill that starts with that, but it is totally inadequate as far as funding.
But you say, and that's loans to acquire land, or loans to acquire equipment and seeds and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, what they're going to probably make you do is do a business plan. And so with the business plan, they're going to fund maybe some of the operations of the business. Getting seeds or getting equipment.
But not necessarily acquiring land.
No, I don't think. Now, there are programs now for those people out there that really want to get into this. There is rural housing from HUD that's at really low rates, but you have to be in a rural area.
And you have to be a farmer.
No, this is rural housing that has nothing to do with farming. So it could get you the house and possibly the land for the farming.
Okay, well that's
yeah.
what I'm talking. And is there some program out there that works on farmland preservation? Because I know there's a big problem
Okay.
with farmland getting eaten up by development.
Okay, so this is what this Farm Bill, 2018,
Yeah.
there's a conservation program,
Okay.
which were actually two programs. The Republicans wanted to push the two programs together.
Hmm.
In the conference committee, they lost that battle. And so the existing two programs were continued to be funded because the Republicans wanted to bring them together and cut the funding.
What are the two programs that you're talking
One is called conservation.
about? Okay.
The other is maybe land conservation or something. The conservation program that I'm under is just a few $100s a year. Has to do with creating, for instance, piles of timber so that birds could get in there and their predators could get
So
to
that's
them.
more like wildlife preservation.
Wildlife preservation
Okay.
and conservation.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some conservation issues. I didn't have any because my streams and water and everything, there's no erosion that I could.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty good. I mean, they were talking about major erosion, and they don't fund it adequately. They'll give you money to plan for it, to figure out what's done, but then they won't give you the money to actually do it.
So, but is there any part of this program or any program that incentivizes farmers not to sell off their land to developers and to preserve
No,
farmland?
not in the Farm Bill. There are programs like that that are specific to locales.
Okay.
So a
But
city
not from the federal
or
government?
county, no. Not from the
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. But that is something that I think people can take advantage of who are minorities that traditionally wouldn't be looked at favorably.
Right.
Either black farmers never have been given a good shake,
Right.
and
Hmm.
single females. But now they're opening this up.
So
And
how did that
it's-
happen in a Republican Congress?
Again, that was, to me, it was like a no-brainer. Of course you want to help those people who are not the traditional folks who are out there. Again, it was in the conference committee. It wasn't in the House. It was in the Senate, and it stayed in the Senate version.
And then the House just went along.
Because they got all these other things that they wanted, like people who were getting subsidies who weren't farmers. They wanted that very bad. And that's what they went out there. And I swear there's some niece or cousin of one of those guys that's going to
Probably. Yeah.
bring down a bunch of bucks. Let's see. So those are the main areas that there's funding for.
Now you mentioned farm transitions.
That's the going from the young farmer to the old farmer.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there
And
another one?
organic research.
Yeah. Now, organic research has been going on for quite a while. They have upped it slightly. It's not anywhere near what we need in organic research, but a lot's been done, and there's not that push to get a huge amount of money to do that right now.
To do organic
Because
research. Yeah.
Because all of that now is being shifted by the ag extension folks into hemp.
Into hemp.
Hemp. They're the North Carolina State University extension program is heavily involved with hemp.
Okay, but how does that relate to organic research? I don't understand.
So they're not pushing the organic research. They're pushing. Remember, I said it was a pilot
Okay.
program last one. It's a pilot program. So their energy on the educational research side is going now towards here. So
Toward
there's
hemp.
not.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's not as much push for organic.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about organic, though. I mean,
Yeah.
It seems to me that the word organic and the whole term organic has been co-opted by agribusiness right now. That a lot of the things that are being called organic, and I was just reading an article about this. You and I probably would not, before the federal government had a definition for the word organic and made this whole legal apparatus to define organic. What's being sold as organic now is not what you and I would have defined as organic before
Right.
they did that.
Right. And there are all new kinds of terms like chemically free
Yeah.
that are being used to explain further how much into organic you are. So,
But I mean, they're organic insecticides now, and
yeah,
organic pesticides and herbicides, and I don't think so. You know, I mean, I don't think they should be. If you're going to use the word organic.
okay. Well, let's look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a product like neem oil.
Okay.
Great product. Comes from a tree. Fairly sustainable. And the oil is probably the best for keeping away insects, keeping away mold, keeping away certain spider mites, aphids.
So it's a natural oil,
Natural.
and it breaks down readily,
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
into non-toxic compounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what would be considered organic.
But I'll bet it's expensive.
Not that expensive.
No.
No. First of all, when I use neem, I've got a problem with the plant.
Mm.
Something's happening to that plant.
Mm.
So you're not spraying neem every single day or whatever.
Right.
You're just spraying it when you need it. Spray it for 3 or 4 days, and that's it. And the problem's gone.
Mm.
There's another product that helps with beetles, and that is a real long name. We use it for any of the beetles, that potato beetles, for the summer squash, kale, any of that.
Beans.
Yeah, any of that. You can use this thing that's a real long name. And it's a bacteria, and the bug will eat it, and it gets into their stomach, and then it destroys their stomach, and they die.
Mm-hmm.
And they die, so it's biodegradable.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the organic stuff that people are using.
What happens if you eat this stuff, this bacteria?
That's a real good question.
I would hope.
I know that, for instance, with broccoli, you can, BT is the term used by people, and it will be used for a period of time, and then you stop. So when broccoli starts out, it's mostly leaf, and you're just getting the head just starting to come out, that whole time to the head coming out, you can spray with BT. If you
And
see,
BT is this bacteria.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you see it, you see the bug.
Right.
Now, back in the old days, you either came along and you squished each one of those bugs,
Right.
or you had a duck that came in and the duck ate all the little bugs.
Mhm.
So there are different ways of doing it
Right.
organically.
But again, you're not answering the question with BT. What happens if people ingest it?
As far as I know, it wouldn't cause any problems.
Doesn't eat
but
out
I
your
don't-
stomach until you die.
No, no, it doesn't have the effect on us that it has on the insect.
That's what I was concerned
And
with.
I would
Yeah.
basically think, see, the BT, like a lot of stuff, needs to be sprayed after a rain. So if the rain doesn't come to wash it away.
Mhm.
So if you spray it and then it rains and you don't respray it, the BT is gone.
Okay.
But there are a number of different organic things for farming. And I remember when I first used BT and I was kind of like, whoa, I mean, that's pretty outrageous that this bacteria could go into the stomach and kill this thing.
What about genetically engineered seeds and things like that? Can they be counted as organic under the federal guidelines?
You know,
If you grow genetically engineered fruits and vegetables, can they be defined as organic under the legal federal guidelines? Even if, because then, they don't have to use pesticides or whatever.
I would say to you that I remember when GMOs argued that it was organic.
Right.
However, the industry, as far as I know, is not accepting any GMOs as organic.
Okay, well, that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah, as far as I know. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's touch base with, we've gone through what the Farm Bill pays for, the different areas that the Farm Bill pays for, and we'll go over them. The farm subsidy is the biggest. The SNAP program is the next. You got organic farming research.
Transition.
You got transition. You got farmers markets. You got minorities
and veterans. So-
and veterans,
and conservation program.
and then the conservation program.
Right.
Those are the programs that are funded, and money is allocated to those programs.
Okay.
Then we have a part of the Farm Bill which is not normally talked about, and that is hemp, cannabis. And it was first talked about in 2014 when hemp pilot research program was allowed by the feds. They had to have a state program that they dictated what that state program would be. And North Carolina has a program that's similar. The first was Kentucky. North Carolina, Tennessee, I believe, has it. But a number of states now have hemp programs. Now, hemp defined by saying that it was legal in this Farm Bill, no longer pilot research. This is legalization with the caveat that it's only legal if you follow the feds and the states
Right.
guidelines on what to grow and how much THC is in the product.
So it's totally controlled. Okay.
Totally. You can, when it says it's legal, you cannot go out and plant hemp in your field by yourself legally.
It's kind of like tobacco then.
Well, there's no subsidy. There is now hemp
But there's
crop insurance, which tobacco had, but
but you can get a license for growing so much of it, right? Or is that how, like tobacco?
it's just a license for growing.
Oh, you can grow as much of it as you want if you have the license.
Right now, that's true.
Okay.
In the beginning, when it was a research program,
Hmm.
they dictated how much you could do
Okay.
by who is going to purchase your product before you buy the seeds. So in North Carolina, you have to have your buyer before you put any seed in the ground.
Interesting. Okay.
So that determines how much product you're going to be producing.
So you have to have contract in hand, basically.
Yeah. Now, the reality is you can change your contract. Another person drops out, and you get another contract. They're not really
Enforced.
strict
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
It's kind of more like a letter of intent
Okay.
to buy, to purchase, more than anything else. But the farmers are not like around the world. If you were in India, you can grow hemp. If you want to go get your seeds, grow your hemp, produce your crop.
Just like corn or anything.
Yeah, like any commodity, but not in the United States.
Right.
We have to go and be weird about it, as far as I'm concerned.
Which is odd because like Washington and Jefferson, like they were all hemp farmers, right?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, was inked onto hemp paper.
There you go.
Betsy Ross's flag was made out of hemp. George Washington grew hemp plants. What more do you want to say about it? That when 1937 came around and we had a moral panic over cannabis, led Congress to overwhelmingly pass the Marijuana Tax Act, putting punitive high taxes on this important medicine. That's how they outlawed it, by taxing it.
On this important medicine, is that how they described it?
No, well, I'm just saying it's
Oh.
the important medicine. Now, how do I know it's the important medicine? At the turn of the 20th century, cannabis sativa was included in the U.S. pharmacopoeia. So, just
But
37
that's different
years.
than hemp. That's different.
No.
Sativa is not hemp.
Hemp is cannabis sativa.
Oh.
Cannabis is cannabis sativa. They're both called the same thing. That's part of the problem in 37, why the rest of the world kept growing hemp. We legalized it because we thought it was the same as marijuana, which it's not.
Yeah.
And so, in 37, unlike most of the industrialized world, the U.S. law did not differentiate hemp from other cannabis plants, with a small exception, and this is really to the heart of the lie of 1937 that this should be legal, that cannabis and marijuana and hemp were the same thing. All of that was a big lie. And we, in World War II, changed it. All of a sudden, the U.S. government says, we need hemp for rope. And they had hemp for victory. And they took samples, the USDA, of 3 different hemps from around the globe, and they made it into the super hemp for that they put out into the Midwest that's called Ditch Witch now. And, you know, they went totally against what they said, that hemp was illegal. As soon as the war's over,
Back to illegal.
and in 1970, they went one step further because the Marijuana Tax Act put a put a high tax on the product so that you couldn't really produce it and make money on it.
Talking about hemp.
Hemp.
Yeah.
Or what's called the Marijuana Tax Act, where hemp was part of it, which then in World War II become not part of it. Then after World War II became part of it. In 1970, they put the Substances Control Act, which then made it illegal. So before that, it wasn't
Before
illegal.
1970 it was
Before
not.
1970, it wasn't illegal. It was just taxed really high.
Marijuana was illegal.
Both of them were just taxed really high.
Wait a minute. In the 60s, I know marijuana was illegal.
It was taxed high. It wasn't until the 70s.
But I mean, you could get arrested for selling for buying marijuana in 1960s.
Technically, not.
Well, people were.
Yes, they were. But technically, it was in 1970 when the Substances Control Act put marijuana on a Schedule 1,
Schedule 1, yeah.
which made it illegal.
Well, I think it was illegal before that. Maybe not listed as a Schedule 1. Maybe it was a Schedule 2 or 3.
There was no Schedule 1, 2, or 3. In the Controlled Substance Act was passed in 1970, cannabis and all cannabis-derived products were formally made illegal by placing them on it, which meant that the Tax Act didn't make it illegal, even though people were put in jail because of it.
Maybe in separate states
they could have.
Yeah.
This was a federal stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So now, in 1970, we have this problem that in 1960, Israel discovered THC, and then eventually in 1990, CBD was discovered in Spain. They are both Schedule 1 and will continually be Schedule 1. Now, I didn't mention, I mentioned on the first part of the program, but if you want to get a real good education, Martin A. Lee has a book called Smoke Signals, The Social History of Marijuana, Medical, Recreational, and Scientific. It was put out in 2012. It won the American Botanical Council Award in 2012 as the best plant book for 2012. I highly recommend it. In addition, Martin A. Lee has a website called Project CBD, and it's .org. And Project CBD has a CBD owner's manual or things you need to know about CBD. And in there, it talks about it being a bioaccumulator. It talks about the entourage effect. It talks about the placebo effect. It talks about a lot of things that are happening with this plant.
So you mentioned that, both hemp and marijuana are cannabis sativa.
Right.
But they're different. So
Yes.
So what's the biological name that what differentiates them biologically? Yeah.
Okay. So what differentiates them is how they're grown, where they're grown, and what they use their products for.
So it's the same plant, is what you're saying.
Exact same plant. However, over thousands of years in the northern climate, hemp was grown in fields really tall, stacked together. Special equipment to cut it down, special equipment to process it. In the southern climates, the same plant, well, and that hemp plant was grown for fiber and seed, was not grown for flower.
So would the hemp plant more likely be the male plant and the marijuana?
Both, no, be male and female.
Oh, okay.
So the hemp would have the male and the female, but the cannabis sativa that's grown in and around the the equator
Yeah.
is grown for medicine. It's not grown tall, it's grown small, and it's grown for bud, and it's grown for female plants only, which then increases the plant is trying to take its energy, which is really looking for a male to produce seeds, and produce more THC and CBD in the trichomes as a sensimillion or female plant. So you wouldn't grow hemp, which is male-female, with cannabis, which is just female.
Sensimillion is without seeds, right?
Without seed, female.
Okay.
Male is seed.
I see.
So male, female for hemp, female only for cannabis.
But you can grow the kind that has a lot of THC and CBD in it in the same climates that you grow hemp. Obviously, I mean.
Well, the climate, yes, but the way it's grown is not.
Okay.
So, if you're growing for stalk and seed, you're growing hemp.
Right.
If you're growing for flower, female, you're growing cannabis.
Right.
You're growing them in different ways, in different methods, and in different processes to make the final products. They're called the same, cannabis sativa, but they're really two different plants
I understand
with
that.
two different products.
I'm just having a hard time understanding how you can control with the same. You have the same plant, same species of plant. How you can control how it grows. I mean.
Okay, so if you take a seed, a hemp seed, and you put it in the ground, it will normally grow up 20 foot tall and go down 20 foot.
Right.
That's what that seed does. That's
Right.
what it's been bred to do.
So it's a different species, isn't it?
It's unfortunately the same species. And the other has been grown to grow for flower, not for stalk, not for seed.
So
and
it's
so
just the individual genes of the plants that have been separated. One is because it produces more THC and CBD, the other because it grows tall
produces
and
fibers and seeds.
Okay, so it's
And
just
they're different strains.
different
They're
strains.
different
But
strains
the same
for
species. Yeah.
same species.
Okay.
So and it has some of two things. Some of the most varied strains in the world for this plant. And the other thing is that there are just so many uses for the hemp, like 2,500 and counting. Whereas on the medicine side, we're just starting to understand what we can do with those flowers. But they're two different processes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so now I would like to ask the question as we're going through this farm bill. And why in the world would our conservative Republican government want to create this administrative boondoggle? Why can't American farmers join the rest of the world where farmers are allowed to grow hemp as a typical agricultural commodity without any regulations. Now, we mentioned last time the fact that we got a patent for CBD. The patent number 6630507 is owned by the United States people, but it was given to a pharmaceutical in England.
To one company.
To one company
Do they have
called
exclusive rights over it?
Yeah, GW Pharmaceuticals.
They have exclusive rights over a public patent.
And they produce this thing, Epidolex, which is pure CBD.
And they're the only ones allowed to do that?
Yeah. Right now. Had that happen, is what it becomes a classical lobbying case about backroom deals that will benefit a company to receive huge profits from, in this case, CBD products, where the industry writes the rules to benefit their interests. Our government didn't do any research. Our government relied on the company, Big Pharma, to do the research.
Yeah.
That's number one. Now, I told you I was going to tell you something about Israel.
Yeah.
It just came out. Some people have known about it, but it basically is just getting circulated that our government paid $100,000 through the National Institute of Health and FDA to Israel. $100,000 every year for 40 years to do our research on marijuana. And it just came out now because the contract is null and void. It's over. They're bringing in private interests to produce this $100,000. They don't need America anymore. That was Israel. Israel where it was discovered. Israel where marijuana is illegal. The only place Israel can have these products that they're producing is in the hospitals and the clinics. They're all scripted. There's no dispensaries. Nobody's allowed to have any marijuana in Israel.
It's all over the place, I can tell you.
Well, I'm just saying to you that, these crazinesses are out there. Britain, illegal, has a huge research facility. Israel, basically illegal, has a huge research facility. United States, supporting Israel research, supporting British research to produce products in here for United States people. Something doesn't smell right.
Yeah, so why did they do that, do you think?
No answers. No answers. Nobody is talking about. This is the first look at this controversy. It's all under the rug. Nobody's looking at it. And they're taking a lot of money from American people with products that, as we said in the last hour, are fake medicine. Are the old snake oil come back.
That's not what's coming from Israel. That's what's being produced here.
That's being produced here. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
no, the stuff in Israel is real. I mean, that.
yeah, well, and they're basically THC. They're not really CBD. So, for their patients to go to sleep at night,
Okay, so
pain.
they use it medicinally for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't even get it in England, in the hospitals and everything.
Or here, for that matter. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Although there's still that facility in Mississippi that certain doctors have been able to get their patients, and they get joints every month from the federal government.
And of course, there are 14 states now where medical marijuana is legal. And
10.
10, okay.
10.
So like California, Oregon, Washington,
10.
Colorado.
There's 10 of them.
Yeah, Vermont, I think now. Vermont just made recreational money. They
Yeah.
have the best.
And Massachusetts too.
Oh,
Massachusetts before them.
I don't know, but Vermont, as I understand it, you can grow your own.
It's actually yes, but there's a limit on the number of plants.
Right.
But you can do that in California.
Yeah, not some states you can. Some of the states
Right.
have legalized it.
There was a push when New York and Florida went to the side of getting the doctors to give a card for a specific illness, and then they had to catch up with the dispensaries and getting the product in and everything, and they're just working some of that stuff out now. But if you can get a card in those states, you should go ahead and do it.
Yeah, so it seems to me like there's a push to sort of, they're trying to direct it so that there'll be a monopolistic, hold on these, and it'd be more easily controlled that way. Whereas states like Vermont, they're just saying, well, you can grow it yourself. I think in Oregon too, you're allowed to grow
so many plants.
So many plants for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And that seems like the most democratic way to do it. I mean,
Yes.
to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The problem, and that's the way in 1996 in California it started out. The problem was when the people who needed the medicine were not capable of producing the plants.
Right.
And that's when the dispensaries came in, and that's when all of the situation, took a interesting turn.
Yeah.
And now, probably the fastest growing stuff out there is where there's no brick and mortar, no dispensary. It's by car.
Uber?
They have in California. There's the green mapping or something like that, and you call up these people and they come to your house. They deliver it. Delivery services, so that they don't have any brick and mortar. And without having brick and mortar, the feds can't close them down. So, but
they've got to be producing it somewhere.
Yeah. They usually been buying it from Northern California and bringing them down and everything, making them medicine. But the problem with the delivery services that you had to know what you're ordering. Whereas you go in a dispensary, you got
pick and choose.
Yeah,
like
the people
bakery,
could. The people could. They say, this is my ailment. They're gonna help you with some of that. You look at leafly.org and you see, well, this is my strain and this is my ailment, and I put them together, and there's some help along those lines. How, if it's not cannabis oil, I just wouldn't even put it in my body. But as a potential for human consumption, it's really high. I mean, it's conceivable that this product could be in most food products as a supplement right in the food. So there's a lot of potential here, and it is a miraculous healing plant that we have not really taken seriously because of the big lie since 1937. And it's amazing to me that people aren't being called on this, that this whole thing has been made up and should never have happened. And let's get back to reality where the government's not involved. Now, interestingly enough, North Carolina, if Cory Booker's bill passed the Senate, it would fly through the House.
Right.
If that happened, North Carolina is holding the bag. Technically, you could go out and grow all you wanted in North Carolina. there is no regulation other than Schedule 1. And if they take it off of Schedule 1, there is no regs. And there's no way for
So you
North
mean
Carolina...
North Carolina, they're just enforcing federal laws? There's no North Carolina statute
Exactly.
banning marijuana? Okay.
Well, except for that epileptic child...
Well, that's legalizing it.
yeah,
It's not banning, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very interesting.
So where are we? We're over the hour.
Yeah, we're over the hour. So it seems to me like it's happening all of this. It keeps, even though there's been efforts to slow down the expansion of legalization, it's been accelerating, and
Yes.
and more states. And I think it
Yes.
seems like just a matter of time, because in the states where they're
Yeah.
legalizing it, first of all, the state governments are reaping huge tax revenues from it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I mean,
it's helping education.
Now, here's an interesting thing. This whole industry is going to crash and burn. It would not surprise me if all these little companies that are doing this stuff right now all get gobbled up by big guys who go through FDA and can take all of these products through the FDA system, because when they do one, they can just piggyback all of the other ones on top of it with potentially cost savings to get those.
So it'll be like the tobacco industry, where you got just a few producers. Well, that's what they want.
That is, I believe, where they are taking this.
And that's where they're trying to take it.
Yeah, that's
I
where
think
they're trying to take it.
there's some public resistance to that, though.
Well, yes, there are, but we don't have the power. We don't have the funds.
That remains.
Look at Normal. I mean, Normal's been out there for so long,
Right.
and they are effective
Yeah.
to some degree, but we still don't have it all done. And look how many years that's
Well,
been.
that's true,
been
but
working on that.
nonetheless, Normal has had an effect, and there is a strong grassroots effort behind Normal, and similar, not only Normal, but just people
Yeah.
who don't want to see that process take place through monopolization like that.
Well, it looks like that's the road that they want to take us down.
Some,
Yeah.
I mean, they being the corporate interests.
The corporate interests,
Right.
exactly.
But
exactly.
you got states like Vermont.
But here's the thing.
Not, yeah.
I don't think that it's sustainable for these prices. Yes, the process to make it organic and not toxic is a little bit expensive, but it's nowhere near the price levels that they've gotten here. And what has happened, it seems to me, on the national scale, is that the farmer's price has plummeted, and yet the retail price has not reacted yet.
Right.
But I do think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
And what's going to happen is all of their financial programs, business plans that were based on those real high prices are going to come crashing down. They got all this money that they owe. They're not going to be able to do it. The bankruptcies are going to come in, and then the big guys are going to come down and gobble them all up. What's new?
Right.
Same old thing.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately the way to go is to push for people to be able to grow their own. You know?
Legalize and grow your own, obviously, to me, is the way to go. Absolutely.
There is
And-
a negative side to that,
Yeah.
though. Is right now, if you go into a dispensary, there is a regulated product, so
Right.
that you know what you're getting.
Right.
You know, it's got certain concentration. And whereas if you grow your own, you really don't know what you're getting.
That's true. However, I do believe that we're going to have a black market in this.
Yeah, there probably
And
will be.
I do believe that there are going to be more and more labs that the black market can go to, that's not going to be turned over to the police and all that's kind of good. Where the cops are going to come and burn your fields and all of the things that have not happened whatsoever in the industry at all. So it's very what I've been finding from my personal experience with young people who are farmers who are wanting to get into this. Number one, their parents never allowed them to usually use the product or grow it. So they don't understand the plant. And yet they're seeing this money as the reason for growing the plant rather than wanting to produce good medicine to help people, which is where we all should be. And if we are trying to produce good medicine to help people, then we're not going to have toxic plants, toxic processing, and a lot of lies and deception, and not being up on exactly what it is that
well,
we're
unfortunately,
dealing with.
that takes government regulation because some people are good of heart and will do that, but a lot of people are into the money, and that's all that they care about. And unless you have, and this has been shown, proven over history, over and over again, I mean, industry ultimately doesn't care about the environment, people's health.
Right.
Yeah, so you have to have government regulation for that reason.
Yeah. It's true, but when you look at, the barcodes and all of the fat contents and what the ingredients are and how everybody said, oh, we can't do that, we're going to lose money. It's
there's no
not
perfect
an
answers.
not an issue.
All right.
Okay.
So is there anything else you want to say about the Farm Bill? We're going to wrap it up now.
Well, I would like everybody to be real serious about farming and to get for North Carolina, this specific, a Secretary of Agriculture that's not bought and sold by the lobbies that are GMO, large corporate farms. That whole scene needs to end. And it doesn't seem to have any brakes on this train about to hit this wall. It's going to come crashing down on a certain level because people are not going to have good food to eat. And if they don't have good food to eat, they're not going to be healthy. If they're not healthy, we're going to just have a sick society.
Grow your own.
Yes. Revolutionary to grow your own food. Yes. Thank you, Avram.
Thanks, Robert. All right.